So since tens of thousands of people have been asking me about how my fermentation chamber works, I'm going to do a walkthrough here and answer all the questions once and for all. I built this thing about probably a year ago now, and it's been working out pretty well, and my main goal was to make it fit in line with the edge of the garage, so a certain depth, which is a little shallower than a refrigerator typically is, by about 5 inches. And I wanted to also be able to handle wort chilling, and I wanted to be programmable over time, and I really like the thought of having dual zones, and the left side and the right side are independent. That ended up not being a feature I really cared about because I ferment about everything at 62 or 64 or something like that anymore, but nonetheless I designed it wanting that. So the main parts of this are a control box, which is that box right there, and then underneath it is a window air conditioner that I got off Facebook yard sale for $25 or something. This is a cooler off of Amazon. I think it was 20 bucks. I bought it new, and in there you can see the glycol, 2 tubes. There's a little circulation pump that was a couple bucks off Amazon to keep it from freezing up. That coil is the cold side of the window air conditioner. You can't really see it, but you straighten out those copper coils. A bunch of people have done this on homebrewtalk.com. That's how I got the idea for it. And then this is a Sabco Chill Wizard, old style. It's basically a plate chiller and a March pump in a box. It has an oxygen stone in the back that I never use, thermometer, which I can barely see, but it's still pretty helpful, and a switch for the pump back there. If I didn't have all that in the box already, I would have just gotten the individual things and mounted them to the frame here, and it'd be just the same. A little less pretty maybe, but still functional. And then you see the pump, or the piping. So those two in the back there go up into the fermentation chambers, and this one up here is a manual, so that when I decide I want to chill wort, it pumps the glycol through the cold side of the plate chiller that's in the Chill Wizard. Inside of the fermenters, back there, you can't really see. There we go. They're kicking on. You can see that mess. It's fans and a radiator I bought off Amazon. I think the radiator was kind of sucked because it was like $20. And then there's a solenoid or a 12-volt ball valve that's actuated from the control box, and it's the same on both sides. I really kind of half-assed all the wiring and routing when I was doing this because I wasn't sure if it was going to work, and so I wanted to make sure that the concept worked before I invested too much time in neatening stuff like this up. So now that I know it's working out fairly well, no major changes, I'll come through here one weekend when I'm bored and lonely and clean it up. As far as the control box goes, which is what makes the whole thing work, it has a BCS 460 in it, which is a brewery control system. I got it off Homebrew Talk for 50 bucks, I think. but it's kind of outdated. But it's like a one-stop shop for a controller that you can program for temperature and stuff. Oh, my computer slept here. Here's the control panel. It does all this stuff automatically. I mean, it's all built in, so you don't have to know anything about programming or whatever. It comes up in a browser window, so normally during the brew day, I'll pull this up on my phone and I'll turn the glycol down to 20 or whatever because I'm gonna chill the wort. So normally I just leave it around 40 for keeping my ferm chamber around 60. So it'll, I mean, 20 degrees is enough difference for it to cool it down pretty well. If you can keep it at 30 or 25 or something, but you just end up with condensation on these pipes because, you know, when you start pushing 25 degrees stuff through there and it's in this garage, it might be 90 degrees and humid or whatever, it'll start pouring off of there. So not much benefit to crank those down for the regular operation. This thing, I'll show you the outputs. So it's got 4 outputs. One turns on the air conditioner, one turns on the fan and ball valve in the fermentation one turns on the pump that circulates the glycol, and the last one does the fan and ball valve in ferm 2. So just depending on how you set this thing up, it will, you know, if you fire up or set the cooler process and you set your temperature, it'll just send an output to the air conditioner to keep that at whatever you set it to, say 25 degrees. The fermentation chamber, you can set it so it kicks on the pump, the solenoid, and the fans. So the cooler and the ferm 1 are totally independent of each other. It also has some like a data log that'll show you the temperature over time. It's really kind of weak. I mean, you can't save it, you can't export it. It just kind of rolls over itself, but it's still nice to know. Like sometimes the power will go off and I can see what the stuff got up to, because you can set it to power back on or start up. So you can turn this thing so if the power goes out, then it resumes everything, and then it'll show your high temperature up there when it starts out. And overall, it was a pretty fun project, and it's made it nice because I pumped the wort into the 10-gallon 15-gallon fermenters, and I never have to pick up 15-gallon fermenters, and I can roll this around if need be. I'd say for any normal person, the best thing to do is get a fridge, because it's going to be 1,000 times more efficient, and you'd actually be able to sell the thing at some point in your life or use it for something else. But this hadn't been too bad. The dual zone thing was an overcomplication that wasn't necessary. I mean, you could set this thing up to run off 2 ink birds. You know, you could have an ink bird running the cooler and one running the fermentation deal up top, and that would be probably, you get 95% of the functionality without the headache and a control box. And you know, I had some of this stuff in the basement, so I didn't feel quite so stupid. But I've got a wireless router on there to make that control box accessible from the Wi-Fi. The valves in there that are electronically actuated ball valves are like $50 a piece. so you wouldn't have to get those. Being able to chill the wort, and I use an immersion chiller down to like 110 or 100 degrees, but you get a single pass with this. If you have this cooler full, it's like 7 gallons. If you have that down to 30, and it'll take it from 100 down to 60, 65 or something like that, as quick as you can pump it in the fermenter. So it's a pretty nice way to finish, and you don't end up dragging it out for that last 30 minutes that it takes to get your wort down from 100 to 80, whatever, if you get that in the summertime. So another thought is, the worst part about this was buying the glycol. I bought a 5-gallon thing of glycol. I only used about half of it, but that was like 120 bucks. But if I'd have got a cooler with a drain plug, it might have been just as well to, you could fill this thing up with water on your brew day and chill it down for your wort and keep it going through the 2 weeks or whatever fermentation, and then just drain the thing, and then the next time you brew, fill it back up again, and maybe use a bigger cooler, because you could really crash it. If you're meeting your wort ratio at 1-to-1, where I'm cooling down 10.5 gallons with 7 gallons, it hurts a little bit, but with water it wouldn't really matter because it's a lot cheaper. So there's some pro tips for anybody that might be dumb enough to do something like this. Again, it's working out pretty well. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them on me. Thanks.